So, should I start?
Yes, we start.
So, good evening, our esteemed members and fellow professionals. It is my privilege to welcome you all to this insightful session, wherein the topic for today is the Manufacturing and Other Operations in Warehouse Scheme 2019, Duty Free Imports Unlocked for All Indian Manufacturers. Today's program is especially significant as the scheme opens up vast opportunities for all Indian manufacturers. Before we start with this session, I would like to request the WIRC staff to play the ICI motto for us to just begin this program.
य एष सुप्तेषु जागृति य एष सुप्तेषु जागृति कामं 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 कामंशो पुरुषो निर्विमाणः निर्विमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तदेव शुक्रदब्रह्मा तदब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता 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 एतद्वैता.
Okay, so with that, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed speaker for today, CA Shrikant Rathi, sir. I am really very sorry, sir. The chairman of WIRC is not present right now, but on his behalf and WIRC, I would like to welcome you. CA Shrikant Rathi, sir, is not only a subject matter expert in this field of customs, trade facilitation, and duty neutralization scheme, but he would also be an authority from whom we can gain hands-on experience in navigating the complexities of this scheme. With that, sir, I would like to take your permission to introduce yourself. Uh, uh,
Please. Thank
yes.
you.
So, CA Shrikant Rathi, sir, completed his chartered accountancy course in May 2011. He holds a commerce degree from Symbiosis College, Pune. Over the years, Shrikant sir has built a stellar career in indirect taxation, foreign trade policy, special economic zones, combining technical expertise with strategic insights. Looking at his professional experience, we understand that he has sharpened his skills with renowned firms like Bizol India Services Private Limited, Ernst and Young, Lakshmi Kumaran and Sridharan, where he gained invaluable experience across various domains of indirect taxation. His journey, though, uh, though through these esteemed organizations, has equipped him with deep knowledge and practical experiences that are rare in this field. We have, with a keen focus on duty neutralization schemes, Sir has been instrumental in helping over 500 clients save thousands of crores in import duties through government launch programs. His proficiency extends to guiding businesses in taking full advantages of schemes like the one that we will discuss today, having successfully registered more than 200 importers across India to import goods duty-free. So, as a dynamic professional with a passion for simplifying complex tax issues, CA Shrikant sir has served as a visiting faculty member at premium institutions like the Vaikunt Mehta National Institute of Cooperative Management and the Yashada Academy. In these roles, he regularly conducts seminars for government officers on indirect taxes, enriching their understanding of complex tax policies. With this, CA Shrikant sir will share the actionable insights on navigating the complexities around the scheme and maximizing duty exemptions, making this webinar a not to miss opportunity for professionals looking to optimize tax strategy for their clients. With this note, I would like to welcome you, sir, and I would hope that all our members gain a deep insight and practical knowledge on this vital topic today.
Sure, I will try my best. And thank you for this generous introduction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
So
Over
can we
to
start?
you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, over to you.
So I think I will first share my screen, if it's not already. So screen visible?
Yes, sir. Visible.
So good evening all, and thank you for joining in. I understand taking time out of busy schedule on a busy Thursday is a daunting task, and you all have taken time. So I hope that your time is worthy of your commitment. So today we will go through the MOOWR scheme 2019 and why the scheme was introduced, who should apply for this scheme, what is the registration process, what are the exact benefits under this scheme, and what are the compliances prescribed under this scheme. So we'll go one by one through all these. Feel free to ask queries anytime between. We can definitely take up, because the scheme is structured and the presentation is structured in such a way that you might have a lot of queries. The scheme is very new scheme. People have not heard of this scheme. And so maybe you might have a lot of questions. So it's better to ask that time only, because since it's possible that many of you might have the same question. So let's start. What is the objective of this MOOWR scheme? The MOOWR scheme, the basic full form is Manufacturing and Other Operations in Warehouse Regulations. The scheme is not a new scheme. This scheme was already there since 1996. And this was relaunched, or I would say revamped by CBIC in 2019, in line with the government's commitment to make all the business related schemes more business friendly, and to align with the ease of doing business policy of this government. So what actually changed from 1996 to 2019? Earlier, the scheme was more of under the control of the customs authorities. For every inward and outward movement of goods, permission was required from customs. There were requirements to furnish bank guarantees. Frequent renewals were required. So all these schemes, all these compliances and conditions were done away in 2019. A simplified version of this scheme was launched. This scheme is brainchild of actually Invest India platform. Just like Make in India platform, government also has an Invest India platform. So this platform works to attract foreign investment in India. So based on their roadshows and their discussions with foreign manufacturers and companies outside India, they came up with this scheme. And so entire scheme is designed by Invest India, though it is implemented by the CBIC, but the brainchild, this is the brainchild of Invest India platform. So what exactly this scheme aims to achieve for India? This scheme aims to enhance India's manufacturing competitiveness by streamlining import processes and reducing production costs for manufacturers. By lowering production costs and aligning industry with global standards, MOOWR encourages export-oriented manufacturing. Now, how this is done? So many companies have manufacturing facilities in different countries. So some company might have a unit in China, in India, in Bangladesh, in Europe. So not all the manufacturing capabilities are installed in one particular factory. It might happen some capabilities are available in China, some advanced are available in India, more advanced are available in Europe. Because as the factories are set up, new technologies come in, and so whenever a new factory is set up, it is always the advanced one. So to carry out the processes on the intermediate goods, like goods are processed in China for for certain up to certain processes. Then they might have to come to India for further processes. And from there, they might move to Europe or Bangladesh, or they might ultimately go to their consumer market. So to align this movement, duty-free movement of goods from one country to another only for carrying out those manufacturing operations, this scheme was kind of envisaged, and this scheme aims to achieve that flexibility for manufacturers. So ultimately, what is being promoted is manufacturing in India, though only some part of manufacturing is being done, but at least that much value addition is being contributed to Indian GDP. So that is the whole purpose about this scheme. The MOOWR scheme not only benefit businesses, as I explained just now, but it also fosters job creation by boosting domestic manufacturing. By promoting local value addition, maybe for few processes only, and reducing reliance on imports, MOOWR contributes to a more self-sufficient and sustainable Indian economy. So this is this was the very objective of this scheme. For this purpose, it was launched. So what are the relevant sections and notifications which govern this scheme? So this scheme comes out of customs. Though, like I explained, this is an brainchild of Invest India, but this scheme is administered by customs. This was introduced by customs, and all the compliances and registrations, all is given by the customs authorities only. So section 58 and section 65 of the Customs Act are the relevant sections for us. Section 58 permits duty-free storage of imported goods in a bonded warehouse, in a facility which is converted as a bonded warehouse. Whereas section 65 allows further processing or carrying out of manufacturing activities on such goods. So these two are kind of charging sections for us. Section 58 permits you for duty-free storage, whereas section 65 allows you to carry out activities on such duty-free stored goods. There is a notification number 69, which was this scheme was launched in 2019. So through this notification number 69, this scheme was launched. MOOWR regulations 2019 were introduced. So all the eligibility criteria, application process, who is eligible, who is not, all this is given under this notification. Along with notification, a circular number 34 dated of the event date was also issued to prescribe in detail the application process, what should be the application form, how to fill out that, monthly return formats, and other relevant procedures which cannot form part of the notification, because it is easier to amend the processes by issuing a circular than amending a notification. So even after launch in 2019, the scheme was not so popular because like after October 19, COVID came up in February and March. So the scheme couldn't pick up. But people were having a lot of questions about how this scheme is going to operate. So based on the inquiries from the industry and a lot of manufacturers, CBIC came up with another FAQ, though this is not a circular. This is a simple FAQ, which was issued exactly 1 year after this scheme was launched in October 2020. So this FAQ, this circular, this notification, these three are the only documents which contain all the information relating to this scheme. So 8 to 10 pages of documents, and if you go through all these 8 to 10 pages, you will become master of this scheme as far as theory is concerned. So that is the reason I put it out in one slide, so that you can, in bird's eye view, you can gauge the complexity around the regulation. So this is the only relevant. There is no separate act for this, or there are no separate policy. Like this scheme is not coming out of foreign trade policy. This scheme is not coming from CIBS or SEZ or EOU authorities. This is the custom scheme administered by custom. This scheme also popularly known as scheme out of a circular, because the notification is worded in such a way that it's impossible to understand the scheme from the notification. So it is a scheme out of circular. If you go through the circular, you will understand the scheme. So everything about this scheme is detailed in this circular. So anybody who goes through this circular will be able to understand the scheme in a better way. So what are the typical advantages of this scheme? Why this scheme was introduced, and who is actually benefiting from this? So duty deferment is the main objective of this scheme and main advantage of this scheme for all the importer manufacturers. So what is meant by duty deferment? So instead of paying duties at the port of import, normally anybody who wants to import any goods in India, he has to pay duties at the port of import. Only after paying the duties, he can remove the goods from the port and take it to his factory. But if he registers his factory under this scheme, then he can defer the duty payment. he can remove the goods from the port without payment of customs duty, and he has the option to pay the duty only when he removes the goods from his factory. So in effect, by way of this registration, his factory is treated as an extension of Indian customs code. So he is allowed to store goods duty free as long as he wants in his MOOWR registered unit. So there are 2-3 type of goods which come in India. Mostly one fall under the category of capital goods, plant and machinery. Second is your inputs and raw materials. Third is molds, tools, jigs, dies, though part of capital goods, but they come in between these things. So because the frequency of molds, tools, dies is always more than the capital goods, but less than the raw material. Frequency of imports I'm talking. And what all duties are deferred. So at the time of import, a basic custom duty, social welfare surcharge, integrated goods and services tax, and anti-dumping duties. These generally 90%, 99% goods are subject to custom duty, social welfare surcharge, IGST. So all these three put together will be deferred till the time the goods are removed from the factory. Some goods or some capital goods or some machines are subject to anti-dumping duties if imported from China, Thailand, etc. Even anti-dumping duty is also deferred just like all other duties. And that is also payable only when you remove the goods from your factory. So typically, most of the goods are subject to 27.73% of import duties. That is your BCD 7.5%. There is social welfare surcharge 10% on this 7.5%. That comes to 8.25%, and 18% IGST, that is on this basic value plus custom duty value. So all put together 27.73% is the import duty generally payable. This 27.73%, a MOOWR unit gets the option to pay when he sells the finished goods or ultimately when he will scrap the capital goods imported. So this is a huge benefit that is offered under this scheme. Instead of paying duties at the port of import, you get to use this 27.73% as your working capital and pay only when you are actually removing the goods from your factory. So this is kind of a loan given by the government to you without any interest. You can use it for further expansion of your business. Or you can, instead of buying a machine for 100 rupees, you can bring in the machine for 130 rupees, better quality machine, better technology machine. Instead of buying it from China, you can get it from Taiwan also, from Europe also, in the same capital. So that was the motive, and that is the objective that is being met by the scheme. What are the other relaxations under the scheme? The scheme has a standard input-output norms. Any manufacturer who is setting up a unit under the scheme can declare his own input-output norms. He need not follow the SIAN norms that are notified by the government. So if I want to manufacture, say, a cell phone, so whatever goods I require for manufacturing cell phone, I need to declare I need this falana items, 10 items, 20 items. And based on my declaration, I am allowed to import those items, use in my manufacturing process, and pay duty according to the consumption I am booking. I need not follow the standard input-output norms which are notified the government for manufacturer of mobile phone. So this is a very major benefit. This is very particular and relevant for those industries where SIAN norms are not notified or are not possible to be notified because of the nature of the manufacturing process or nature of the inputs that are used. There is no restriction on sale of output in domestic product market. You can sell your finished product in export market as well, or in locally if you want to sell. So you can import duty-free, you can use duty-free imported inputs in manufacture of domestically sold goods also. So that is also freely allowed. Duty-free transfer of goods from one MOOWR unit to another unit. So if you have two factories, you want to shift your raw material from one factory to another factory, that is also possible. You want to shift your manufactured goods from one factory to another factory for further processing, that is also allowed. Simple process is there. And there is no requirement to furnish any bank guarantee. Most of the export promotion schemes which allow you to import duty-free requires mandate you furnish some kind of bank guarantee, maybe 20%, 5%, 25%, depending on your status holder and the background of the company. But under this scheme, there is no requirement of furnishing bank guarantee. So no capital is blocked while going for this scheme. So these are other relaxations under the scheme. So what was the need for introduction of MOOWR? There is already an EOU scheme which is run by government. There is also EPCG scheme which allows you to duty-free import capital goods. There is also an advance authorization scheme. But all these schemes are like, if you take EOU scheme, it is administered by the SEEBS authorities. Though the benefit is of customs duty, but the who should be eligible to operate as a EOU unit, it is decided by SIVs authorities. An application needs to be made to the SIVs. The compliances are to be done with SIVs. So there is dual monitoring and dual regulation under EOU scheme. Same with EPCG and advance. EPCG and advance authorizations are given by DGFT authorities, though the benefit is of customs duty. So you also have to comply with customs regulations while importing, as well as you have to report your export obligations, compliances to DGFT authority. All this is there common for EOU, EPCG and advance authorization. That is the dual monitoring, dual compliances, dual reporting, dual regulations. And so these are all fall under dual regulation category. Under MOOWR, you only have to register with customs. You have to report your compliances to customs. You have to do periodic filing with customs. Everything is done under customs only. You need not go to any other promotional body. So this is the ease of doing business that is being facilitated through this scheme. So compliances are simple. MOOWR unit has to submit only one single monthly return, not like any other scheme like EOU or ETC. They have to report to customs also, as well as to SIVs also. There is no export obligation under MOOWR scheme. EOU scheme, EPCG scheme, advance authorization scheme requires the manufacturer to export certain product, certain percentage of their products as under exports. But there is no obligation under MOOWR. I can set up a MOOWR unit and still sell 100% of my production locally. I can still import raw material duty free. I can still import my capital goods duty free, and I need not. I am not mandated or obligated to export even a rupee of my product. So this is the, I would say, major benefit under MOOWR scheme as compared to all other existing schemes. That was the need which was being, which is also being fulfilled by MOOWR scheme. Like we already saw, you can import duty-free materials for your export as well as domestic sale under MOOWR. Whereas in EOU and EPCG, all other schemes, you have to compulsorily, you can use the duty-free material only for export-related obligations, export-related manufacturing. Ease of registration and management, we have already seen DGFT, SIVs, multiple authorities involved in other schemes. But whereas in MOOWR, you only have to deal with customs. And that is also your jurisdictional custom authority. So if you have unit in, say, Mumbai, so the office will always be in Mumbai. If you have unit in Ahmedabad, the office will be in Ahmedabad only. You need not go to some city center or capital city to get this registration and do the compliances. It will be in local. Even in Surat also there is a jurisdictional custom officer. In Aurangabad, in Maharashtra, Sambhajinagar, there is a customs officer. So your compliances will always be with your local officer only. There is no time limit. Another benefit that is offered by MOOWR over these existing schemes is there is no time limit under which you have to import and utilize the goods. In EPCG scheme, you have time limit to import 6 months. You have to import the machine 6 months or 12 months. And within 6 years, you have to complete the export obligation. In advance authorization, you have time of 12 months to import, 24 months to export. But in MOOWR, there is no time limit. You can import today, say for 5 years also, you don't get any order to manufacture. You can keep the material as it is in your factory. You need not pay duty. So there is no time limit. So now we have seen what was the need for this MOOWR scheme, what advantages it is giving, and what were the objectives. Now let's move to who is eligible. What is the eligibility criteria? So the MOOWR scheme offers great flexibility to all sorts of manufacturers, all sorts of industry, right from textile to automobile, food processing, oil refinery. Any type of industry is eligible to register under MOOWR scheme. So this is not restricted to some industry sectors. This is available to everyone. Even if you are manufacturing tires, you can still import goods under MOOWR scheme. Even if you are manufacturing napkins and textile related products, you can import under MOOWR scheme. Even dal mills, oil mills, rice mills, they can also register their unit under MOOWR scheme. Generally, rice mill, oil mill, dal mill, these are in remote part of India, maybe taluka level places or village level places, but still they can register under MOOWR scheme by going to the district level, wherever is the nearest customs office, and they can register and they can import duty free under this scheme. There is no minimum requirement. You have to import like 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 10 lakhs. There is no minimum. Even for importing 10 lakh worth of machine, I can register under MOOWR scheme. Even if my monthly raw material requirement is only 5 lakh rupees, still to save that 1.5 lakh of import duties, I can still register under MOOWR scheme and claim whatever benefit is available to me. So this flexibility is given under MOOWR scheme, except for solar power generating units. So what was happening, India to promote local manufacturing of solar panels, government had increased the basic custom duty on solar panels to 22%, 32%. So the import of those panels was expensive. So what happened? People started registering their manufacturing units under MOOWR scheme. They started importing duty free. Since panels are installed in the factory, they never go out of the factory for power generation. They are installed at one place. So they were kind of deferring payment indefinitely. So this was, and so solar industry approached the government. They filed a representation saying that your purpose of increasing the basic custom duty is being nullified by this MOOWR scheme, and we want this to go away. So based on their representations at etc., CBIC came up with a instruction. This is not also circular. This is only instruction wherein they clarified that power generation units cannot register under MOOWR scheme. So this was challenged by the beneficiaries of the scheme for under this sector. And in May 2024, recently, Honorable Delhi High Court overturned this instruction, and the benefit was again reinstated. So as of today, if somebody wants to set up a power generating unit, he can import solar panels under the scheme without payment of custom duty and IGST. Practically, we have seen authorities are not processing the applications, but legally you are allowed to operate a MOOWR unit for import of these solar panels. Now, to negate this judgment of Delhi High Court, government CBIC introduced a proviso in budget 2024, which aimed at further regulating the MOOWR scheme. This proviso specifies certain manufacturing processes and operations for a specific class of goods that would no longer be permitted in bonded warehouse. So they wanted to negate this judgment. So they came up with this proviso in section 65, and they said we will separately notify certain processes which won't be allowed. So as of today, they have not notified what processes are allowed, what activities are allowed, or what activities are not allowed. So at a future date, they might do this and prepare a kind of negative list of industries that cannot operate. Maybe they might include polluting industries or any other industry they want domestic industry to be protected. But as of now, no such negative list is there, and all the processes and manufacturing activities can be carried out in a MOOWR unit. But this indicates that there is going to be an evolution in this scheme. Something which is allowed today may not be available 2 years down the line, or 3 years down the line, or 5 years down the line. And through this amendment instruction they had issued for solar power generation units, CBIC also issued show cause notices to the units which already claimed the benefit, asking them to repay the customs duty along with interest. So that kind of thing might also happen in future, but the possibility of that happening is very rare. You can always approach the court, but that thing is still there, like we are discussing, so we should discuss in totality. So who is eligible? Like we saw, all manufacturers are eligible. And what is the amount of eligibility? So any manufacturer importing raw materials and capital goods can avail the benefit under MOOWR scheme. So any new manufacturer who is setting up a new unit, he is also eligible. And additionally, an existing manufacturing unit can also register under MOOWR scheme and avail the duty deferment for further import. So you need not have to set up a new manufacturing unit. Even existing manufacturing facility can also be converted into a MOOWR unit, and the import duty benefit can be, deferment benefit can be availed for all future imports. Even a job worker doing job work, a process which amounts to manufacture, for other manufacturers can also import capital goods under this scheme. So I am a job worker, I am doing only polishing of some metal. But for polishing purpose, I am importing some heavy equipment from Germany, maybe 2 crore, 5 crore worth of machine. But I am not buying inputs, any other. Some goods come to me, I just polish them and send it back. Even for such processes, I am allowed to import my machines duty free. So imagine the benefit that he is getting. The 5 crore machine, almost he's saving 1.5 CR duties, import duties. He need not pay that. So even that is also allowed. So this is the flexibility offered by this scheme. Anything which amounts to manufacture, even packing, repacking, relabeling. If you are importing some items from, say, China, you want to repack here, relabel here, and then export it to Europe, that is also allowed duty free. You can import from China, do this packing, repacking activity in your MOOWR unit, and re-export to Europe. You are not incurring 1 rupee of import duty cost in the while carrying out this entire process. So this is a huge benefit for people who are importing for the purpose of exporting. I'm talking about raw materials and inputs. Now, what is the amount to which one particular unit is eligible? How to compute that amount? If I am setting up a unit, can I import 10 crore, 100 crore worth of capital goods or machines? No. The amount is determined by the solvency certificate. Every applicant has to furnish a solvency certificate from a bank. Based on the amount of solvency, your limit of duty-free import is prescribed. So if you can furnish a solvency certificate of 1 CR, your total duty deferment limit will be 1 CR. You can use that in this year, tomorrow, maybe next 5 years, but your limit will always be 1 CR. If you want to increase this limit, you can always bring in a new solvency of higher amount and your limit will be automatically increased based on the new solvency that you are giving. So your duty deferment will always be equal to or lower than the solvency amount that you are furnishing. Banks charge maximum 25,000-30,000 to issue this solvency certificate. This is not like bank guarantee that you have to block your funds. This is basic solvency. Bank has no responsibility also in case you, even if you fail to pay the duty. So the processes are designed in such a way that industry is able to utilize the scheme to its maximum. Somebody setting up a new unit, he is not able to furnish bank guarantee or etc., but he can always get a solvency from a bank based on his net worth certificate or net worth of the directors, and based on that, his eligibility is determined. Somebody with zero turnover, if he can furnish a 5 crore worth of solvency, he can import goods which have duty up to 5 CR. So this is a huge benefit and relief to the industry. So we have seen that anybody, all manufacturers doing any type of activity under any industry are eligible. Even an existing unit can also register under MOOWR scheme and start importing. Now, how the scheme actually works? Under the MOOWR scheme, the manufacturing facility is converted into private bonded customs warehouse. So this is registration is given under section 58. So you register your factory, existing factory. You need not have to set up a factory in the customs notified area or near to the port. Your factory, wherever it is, you can still register with the customs under private custom bonded warehouse. No structural changes are required to be done in the factory to register as a custom bonded warehouse. There are very basic requirements related to CCTV, firefighting equipments, and your security agency. These type of things, boundary wall, these type of things are required, which are otherwise also generally available in any factory. So you need not do any sort of fancy thing to get your factory registered under the customs. So once you register your factory, you can import goods, raw material as well as capital goods in your warehouse. That is your factory. The word warehouse is used in customs, but you can replace the word warehouse with factory. So it is simple to understand. Warehouse. When we repeat the word warehouse, something different goes off in our mind. So if you can replace the word warehouse with factory, it will be easier for you to understand the scheme and conceptualize it in reference to your client's requirement. So while importing, instead of filing a normal bill of entry, you will have to file a bill of entry for warehousing, and you can bring in the goods without payment of custom duty and IGST. Once goods are received in your factory, you can carry out the manufacturing activity or whatever processes you have to carry out in the unit. And depending on your sales, if you are selling those imported goods after processing locally in India, then you will have to surrender the benefit that you initially claimed of import duties. So you will have to pay the proportionate import duties on the raw material that was consumed in manufacturing those finished products. Similarly, if you are exporting the goods manufactured, then you need not pay any duties. You just have to maintain a record. I have imported 100 quantity of raw material. Out of that, 50 is going into local sale. I am paying duty on 50 only. 50 is gone to export. I just need to keep a copy of shipping bills. So tomorrow, if somebody comes and asks, I can show them that I have exported this many quantity, and based on my input-output norms, I have declared at the time of application, this much quantity is consumed in manufacturing these export products. So this is covered. So what is the process for procurement of raw material and capital goods? So if you are buying domestically purchased raw material and capital goods, normal process, you are paying GST, IGST, whatever is applicable, CGST, SGST, and you can bring in the goods to your MOOWR. It's like a normal operation that you do otherwise also. In case of imported raw material and capital goods, you will get deferment on your basic custom duty and IGST value automatically by filing this bill of entry. So you are operating your unit as you were operating before, even after registering under MOOWR. There are no significant procedural changes for the process for clearance of manufactured goods. Export of finished goods from facility. If you are exporting the final product, again, the BCD and IGST on the proportionate goods will be exempted. If you sell domestically, the proportionate BCD and IGST will be payable. There is no interest applicable under scheme. That is the benefit. So even if I am importing goods, say in the month of October, but the ultimately goods are manufactured and cleared from my factory in the month of March 25. For this 6 months, I need not pay any interest to the government. I will pay only the duty amount what I initially saved on those raw materials. Similarly, now this entire scheme, like I explained, was launched for the purpose to promote local manufacturing in India. You can import raw material input, do some processing, then either re-export the goods or you can sell locally. But what is turning out to be major beneficiaries of this scheme is import of capital goods. The same benefit is available to capital goods as is available to raw material. You can import any amount of capital goods subject to your solvency amount without payment of custom duty and IGST. There is zero export obligation for you under this scheme. You can use those capital goods for as long as you want, maybe 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever is the time lifeline of that particular goods. And you pay duty only when you scrap those capital goods after its life is over. So if you are importing some capital goods today, the value is 5 CR. Today, you are supposed to pay 1.5 CR import duties, including IGST, BCD, so everything put together. So this 1.5 CR, instead of paying it today, you pay it after 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, whatever is the life of that machine. So this 10 years, 15 years time, you are getting to pay the same amount without any interest. So that is the additional capital that is available to you to further expand your business or bring in higher value machines. So if you, and there is one more possibility. What if you re-export the capital goods after its life is over? So in that case, no duty is payable. So I use the capital goods in my factory for 10 years. And if I re-export it to some other country and get the remittance for that particular re-export, then I need not pay any duties also. So this is wonderful. So we have covered the benefits. What is the benefit in case of capital goods, raw material? What is the process for payment of duty? What is the exact benefit? Now we'll go to the registration process under the scheme. So like I explained, the scheme was launched by Invest India, or designed by Invest India. So there is a process of online application. Today, even though scheme is administered by customs, that online application will go through the website of Invest India only. So there is a facility given on Invest India portal. You go select bonded manufacturing, and application screen opens. You have to fill in that application. Based on the PIN code of the unit's address, the application automatically is forwarded by Invest India to the customs authorities having jurisdiction over that factory premises. So this is an online application through Invest India. Now, practically saying, most of the states don't require online application. You can directly go file a physical application with the jurisdictional custom office also. You need not go through this online route. This is an additional facility given for online application, but a physical application is also fine in some states. But there are certain states like Delhi, then in South Chennai, Tamil Nadu, in Madhya Pradesh also, they insist on filing an online application through Invest India first, and then only they accept the physical application. So depending on which state you are operating, that you need to factor in, but it's not a process is same. Once we file the application, the jurisdictional custom authorities take 8 to 15 days to verify the submitted application. If everything is satisfactory, a customs superintendent will visit your factory premises to verify if the factory is safe or secured enough to store these duty-free goods. The purpose of visit, as I mentioned, is to ensure the safety and security of duty-free goods. The superintendent checks all aspects that might affect security thoroughly, such as CCTV, fire protection equipment, security agencies. There should be boundary wall, fencing. These are the basic requirements. That he comes, he checks, he notes down all. He needs to take the photos of those verification, and based on that, a verification report is prepared by the superintendent. That report is again sent to the headquarters, that is the Commissioner of Customs. Yeah, I have physically verified the premises. According to me, all these facilities are there, and if this unit is recommended for registration under MOOWR scheme. So based on that recommendation, a detailed scrutiny of all other documents is done by the Commissionerate office, and once everything is found in order, a license is issued. So this is the typical registration process. You have to go to Invest India, submit online application, take printout of that application, submit all other documents along with that application. We'll go through the documents also in the next slide. After the application, 8 to 10 days after submission of the application, typically a physical verification visit will happen. During the physical inspection, you will have to show that their CCTVs are working, fire protection equipments are installed in proper condition, boundary wall is there, security guards are there. Based on this verification, a report is submitted maybe in 8 to 10 days within after that inspection to the commissioner. And based on that report, maybe another 10-15 days, a license is issued. Once a license is issued, a warehouse code is generated through the IceGate portal. This warehouse code is registered against the IC of this MOOWR unit in the IceGate portal. So this warehouse code is the key to duty-free imports. So even if you complete all the process, but your warehouse code is not generated, then you won't be allowed to file any bill of entry for warehousing. So to file the bill of entry for warehousing, we need this warehouse code. And this is only issued only after a license is approved. So first step is license approval. Second stage is warehouse code generation. This warehouse code, once generated, is valid throughout India. You can file a bill of entry on any port. It is not like it is restricted to any one port which you want to import. This is tagged against your IC on the IceGate portal. So wherever you file a bill of entry, you have the option of using this warehouse code and importing without payment of duties. So what are the registration timelines? The registration process under the MOOWR scheme involves several steps, like I explained. While there are no fixed statutory timelines for completing registration, the process generally follows a standard sequence. So application preparation and document preparation and submission, generally 1 week. Initial scrutiny and issuance of physical verification letter, 1 week. Physical verification, actual physical verification, 1 to 2 weeks. Detailed scrutiny and approval, 1 to 2 weeks. And warehouse code generation, another 1 week. So typically it takes about 4 to 7 weeks after you receive all the documents from the clients. So depending on how quickly the client is able to gather all the documents, this timeline will vary. Most of the states you will get license in this timeline only. There are some states where license is issued in 3-4 weeks also. There are some states which take maybe 10-12 weeks also, but generally it is within 4 to 7 weeks. So if you get a license in 4 to 7 weeks, you can import only after getting the license. So you have to plan your registration and application in such a way that your goods will arrive in India only after you get this license and registration. So if you want to import in December or January, you can start registration process today. But if you want to import in next month only, then you won't be able to take benefit of this scheme, because the registration process will itself take time, but your goods will come early, because you need that warehouse code at the time of import of goods only. So one key issue that we face at the time of registration is that in practice, we have noticed that most units plan to import capital goods at the initial stage only. So unit is under construction only. So capital goods come and they are installing the unit during this construction period only. Maybe the flooring they have to keep ready for that installation of the machines. They have to dig in some holes into the ground for the proper installation of the machines. So for these reasons, the construction is never completed 100% while applying for the MOOWR scheme. So there is somewhat flexibility given under law. Even if your unit is not completely ready, but as far as the basic conditions relating to security of the goods, like completeness of boundary wall, CCTV cameras, firefighting equipments, security agency are met, the license will be processed by the authorities. You can give an undertaking and declaration that my unit construction will be completed, say, within 2 months from the installation of the machinery, and we will furnish the details at that time. Based on that declaration and undertaking, your license is also processed. Some states we have observed, they won't issue a license unless unit is 100% complete and constructed. So for that, you need to plan your imports accordingly, because there is no flexibility. We have to follow what the rule is, because this scheme is discretionary, has given discretionary powers to the Commissioner of Customs. So it is, if he is satisfied and about the security of the imported goods, then only he has the right, he can issue the license. So since satisfaction is very discretionary, so it obviously depends on that also. So some states, this problem you can face. But most of the case states, like I explained, they understand most of the units are under final construction stages only. And based on the undertaking, the license is processed and you can import the goods duty free. So what are key documents in this registration process? So one is solvency certificate, like we discussed. So whatever the duty saving amount you want to avail under this scheme, duty deferment amount, you need to furnish the solvency certificate. It can come from a scheduled bank only. It cannot be issued by auditor or a chartered accountant. It needs to come from a scheduled bank. It needs to be addressed to the Commissioner of Customs having jurisdiction over the factory, and it should include the complete address of MOOWR unit. Additionally, you can also mention the email ID of the bank officer who is issuing the certificate, because some commissionerate do follow the practice of rechecking this solvency with the banks. So they will send an email to banks to authenticate whether this is genuine or not. So it is always better to give details beforehand only. You can incorporate that in solvency format also. Insurance policy. So to cover the loss of duty in the event of any unfortunate incident, we have to give a separate insurance policy. Even though your factory is registered for hundreds of crores of worth of insurance, but still you have to give a separate insurance policy in the name of Commissioner of Customs just to cover the duty amount under this scheme. So if you are giving solvency of 1 crore, you have to compulsorily give insurance of 1 crore in the name of Commissioner of Customs, President of India through Commissioner of Customs. This is a custom duty package policy, commonly known as custom duty package policy, and is available in market. Tata is issuing, the National Insurance Corporation is also issuing. So readily available in the market, but you have to match the solvency amount and insurance policy amount. Both amounts should tally, then only it will your file will be processed further. Site plan, we have to furnish a site plan at the time along with the application. The site plan is the map of your factory, marking all entries, exit, what is the production area, what is the storage area, what is the office area, etc. Because ultimately you are registering your factory with the customs, so they have to have that map of the factory. What part of the factory is registered? One person may have 4 or 5 different shades in a particular compound wall, but if he wants to register only one factory or one shade, then we need to submit only map of that much shade. You cannot change or alter the shade without intimating the authorities. So this is very also important. The map should also indicate the size and shapes of the particular plot, like how many square feet area is there, how many square feet of production area is there, how many story it is, how many storage area is there. All these things need to be mentioned on the site map. This makes life easier for the officer when it comes for physical verification to check whether the site is actually in accordance with the site map submitted or not. We also have to appoint one warehouse keeper under the scheme. Warehouse keeper is the person who will be responsible for all the compliances under MOOWR scheme. So the scheme mandates that a person should be appointed as a warehouse keeper. So any accounts person or a storekeeper with knowledge in movement of goods or accounting of goods can be appointed as a warehouse keeper. He need not have any hi-fi degree. Even as a normal BCom person is also fine. But we have to appoint someone. It is better to appoint someone who has been with the company for a very long period of time. So we need not change this again and again. So it's, and the warehouse keeper is required to have a digital signature, because he is required to file the bill of entries and everything through his DSC. Then one is fire safety audit report. This is also mandated under the circular, fire safety audit report from a qualified independent agency to demonstrate that the premises is fireproof. So there are few states like Delhi, North India, Haryana, Rajasthan. Mandatorily, they will ask you fire safety audit report from the government department, municipal corporation, or the local panchayat who is having jurisdiction over factory area. In Maharashtra, Gujarat, there is a system of private agencies who are licensed by the government to issue this kind of fitness certificate, fire certificates. So these certificates are easily available in these 2 states, Maharashtra, Gujarat. But for North states, you will have to compulsorily take it from your municipal corporation only. So that process takes time. What we understand is it takes almost 2 to 3 months to get a fire NOC from particular corporation. So you need to plan this also based on your import requirements or your import timelines. Some cases they can process this also based on the undertaking. We are in the process of getting this particular NOC. We have applied for the same. This is the copy of the acknowledgement. And based on that, if your luck is good, your file will be processed. Now we have seen the registration process, registration timelines, and what are the key documents required for in the registration process. Now let's go to the import process. How is the import process different under MOOWR scheme as compared to regular import process? One second, I'm just checking if there are any comments or any questions.
No, sir. Till now, there are no questions.
No, okay, we'll continue then.
Yes.
So import process. So import process under MOOWR scheme is distinct from your regular import process. When goods arrive at the port of import, an importer files a bill of entry for warehousing instead of filing a bill of entry for home consumption, which is filed in case of normal imports. A bill of entry for home consumption is filed when you have to pay the duties at the port and clear the goods. That is a normal import process. But a bill of entry for warehousing is filed to defer the payment of duties. Through warehousing, you are indicating to the government that I am keeping the goods in my warehouse and I will pay duties only when I remove the goods from my warehouse. So like I explained, warehouse, you need to replace the word with factory in your mind. So what else is required? Can I just file a bill of entry for warehousing and remove the goods from port? No, you will also have to provide a space certificate. You can file a bill of entry, but when it comes to the final assessment, we need to furnish a space certificate. This certificate is addressed to the bond officer at the port of import, and it confirms that in my factory there is sufficient space to store these imported goods. So based on the application and whatever storage place I have demonstrated at the time of my application or during my site visit through that site plan, I need to also ensure that there is enough space to store these goods while I'm giving a space certificate. The space certificate needs to be digitally signed by the warehouse keeper. So all these things you need to plan out when you are applying for the license. You may have a factory for 10,000 square feet, but if you declare only 200 square feet as my storage area and you are importing 4-5 containers, then you won't be allowed to clear those goods because you are declaring only 200 square foot as your storage area. So you need to show sufficient area as storage area so that all future imports can be incorporated or stored in that particular place. So space certificate is mandatory at the time of clearance assessment of the bill of entry. Space certificate issued by the warehouse keeper only, your own employee. Then a transit bond on a 500 rupee stamp paper is required so that the movement of goods from the port to your factory, should anything happen during this process, you will pay duty to the customs because goods are ultimately not received in a MOOWR unit. They are on road somewhere. So if something happens to the goods, the duty amount you will have to pay to the government. This is what is the meaning of this transit bond. Additionally, you will also have to furnish a transit insurance because your insurance is for the goods that are stored in your factory that you are submitting at the time of application. So you will also have to submit a transit insurance, which will cover the movement of goods from the port to the factory. This is required for every import shipment: transit bond, transit insurance, space certificate. Now, can I take goods from the port directly to my factory or can I send it directly to my job worker? Many people say, if I am importing half processed goods, I want to send it to job worker, he will do some process, then it will come to my factory. But if you are a MOOWR unit and you are importing under MOOWR scheme, then you cannot send goods directly to any person. You will have to bring those goods in your factory, account for those goods, update your records, and then only you can move out those goods and send out those goods for job work or processing or repairs or whatever process. You cannot directly move goods from a port to any other place other than other than the factory that is registered as a MOOWR unit. While filing a bill of entry for warehousing, you will use your warehouse code. You will use your factory address that is registered as a MOOWR unit. So based on that address only, you have to take the goods from the port. So once the goods reach the warehouse, we have to also send an acknowledgement to the port officer, bond officer, yes, goods, whatever goods those left from the port, the same quantity has arrived at my factory. There is no slippage, wreckage, breakage, etc. And I am accounting for those goods in my bond now. So the goods have left the port, but they have now come in my warehouse and under my bond now. So within 30 days, we have to submit this re-warehousing certificate. 30 days from the date from which the goods leave the port. So sometimes this compliance is forgotten, but we have to keep in mind that re-warehousing certificate submission is mandatory. Then only our transit bond that we are giving for this transfer of goods from port to the factory will be closed. Otherwise, this transit bond will always remain open in the system against your IC. If you have bought in 10 consignments, you are given 10 transit bonds, but no re-warehousing is submitted, then obviously customs will think you are just bringing in goods from out of India, but none of the goods are received in a factory. You are diverting those goods. So you have to submit this re-warehousing certificate, and based on the re-warehousing certificate, your transit bond is closed. If a re-warehousing certificate is not submitted within 30 days time, reminder is sent by the customs, giving further time of 10, 15 days, 30 days. But even after reminder, the rewarehousing is not certificate, directly show cause notice and demand notice is sent by them. Maybe you can fight them saying it is a procedural non-compliance, but that is how the process is. So it's better to keep in mind rewarehousing is a mandatory thing. So that is how the import process is different under MOOWR scheme as compared to your normal imports. So key documents are space certificate, transit bond, transit insurance, rewarehousing certificate. Most of the CHHs who will be clearing the goods for you are aware of these things. So though they may look like new words or new concepts to you, but in the process and part of import and port, these are very normal things for someone who is handling this. So this is done very easily. Nothing much to worry about. Now, when to pay import duty? Now you have bought the goods without payment of duty. Now, when you will pay those import duties and how you will pay, because there is no procedure. You don't know how to pay the import. You know how to pay the GST through GST portal, but how you will pay import duties? Because generally these processes are undertaken by the CHA at the port only. So we never come across the process of payment of customs duty or import duties. So when are duties paid? In case of raw material, if I am bringing in raw material, manufacturing goods using that imported raw material. So at the time of sale of that my finished goods, I am supposed to pay the duties. How much duties? Whatever quantity is consumed in that particular finished goods that I am selling today, only that much amount I have to pay without any interest. If finished goods are exported directly from my factory, then no duties are payable on the imported materials used. I would like to highlight here that there is no separate process for export under MOOWR scheme. So whatever is the normal process that you are following for exports, the same process you have to follow for export from MOOWR unit. There is no separate declaration that needs to be mentioned in the shipping bill. So whatever you are showing as exports, you need to maintain a separate record or register of the same, how much quantity through which shipping bill it all exported. And whenever the authorities call for the data, you can submit the data. So it can be verified from a IceGate data or anything. So whatever you maintain, that will be your data. So raw material we have understood. Whenever I sell the finished product, at that time I have to pay the duty. What duty has to be paid? Whatever I initially saved on that particular raw material, which was consumed in the manufacture of finished goods, that I need to pay. Now, in case of capital goods, when I am supposed to pay the duty? So, like I explained, only when I scrap the capital goods and physically remove it from my factory, at that time I am supposed to pay the duty, entire duty amount, but without any interest. It can be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or it could be 2 years also, but you will have to pay the entire duty. There won't be any reduction in your duty value based on the number of years you have used it. Like someone might wonder, I have used the goods for 10 years. Now the goods scrap value, though I imported it for 5 CR, the value of the goods is now only 10 lakhs. So to clear the goods worth of 10 lakh rupees from my factory, I have to pay the import duty of 1.5 crore. So that is how it is. But you will still have to pay the duties when you scrap the goods. Alternatively, if you want to save the duties, you can re-export the goods, the capital goods. In that case, you won't be required to pay the duty. Now you would say something which is imported for 5 CR, can it be exported for 10 lakh? And how that will work? So as of now, there is no clarity under MOOWR scheme. If I re-export the capital goods worth originally imported for 5 crore, now I am exporting by filing shipping bill of 10 lakh only, how much duties I have to pay? So as of now, whatever is given in the circular, it says that you won't have to pay the duty. Though your valuation will be as per the customs regulations and etc. But if the customs regulation valuation comes only 10 lakhs, I will get 10 lakhs worth of remittance from outside India. But there is no clarity on how much duty I would be required to pay. As of now, if you re-export it at any value, you are not supposed to pay the duty. This will obviously, as the scheme progresses and this loophole comes out, government will surely notify some sort of valuation rules on relating to re-export of capital goods after their usage. But as of now, if you ask, there is no clarity, and whatever amount you export, you are still eligible for 100% duty exemption. So we have seen when duties are to be paid. duty is not required to be paid. Again, I'm going to that scenario where I am using the imported raw material for manufacture and removing the finished product in the local market. So I need not compute duties on the finished product value. I only have to pay duty whatever I saved. Even if my only 10 rupees worth of raw material is going into 100 rupees worth of finished goods, I need not pay 100. I have nothing to worry about that valuation of the finished products. I am only concerned with 10 rupees pe kitna duty laga tha. I have to pay only that much.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. There are 3 questions I would like to quickly take up. Yeah.
Okay.
First, sir, in capital goods, do we need to pay full duty if we scrap after 10 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
There is no reduction in the duty value based on the number of years you have used the capital goods. You will still have to pay the full duty amount.
Okay.
But obviously, you won't have to pay any interest on that, but you will have to pay the entire duty amount that you initially saved.
Okay. Another question is like input tax credit of GST will be available only on sale or scrap of capital goods, right? Or will
Yes.
the benefit be enabled at the time of import right away?
No. It will be available only when you pay. So
Only
you
when
can't take credit today and pay after 10 years. So it will be only available only when you scrap the goods or remove it from your factory and actually pay the duties by filing the ex-bond bill of entry. We'll go through the procedure now. Any other
Right.
question, ma'am?
Yes, whether the same benefit of export is applicable if the sale is made to SEZ duty free rather than duty deferment of export. So export benefit is applicable if sale is made to SEZ.
If it is for
question is
exports, if you are importing inputs, manufacturing goods and selling it to an SEZ unit, you are allowed to, you get that exemption on the material used for manufacturing this product. So direct export to SEZ is also treated at par with your normal exports.
okay.
As of
Sir,
now,
what? No,
yes, ma'am.
sorry. You continue.
As of now, there is no clarity under law, under MOOWR scheme. There is no specific circular or instruction which say ki transfer of manufactured goods. When you say finished product, it is a manufactured good or resultant good. The word used in custom is resultant good. So can you transfer resultant goods without paying the duties on the imported material from a normal MOOWR unit to a SEZ unit? Practically, yes, it is possible. It is being done. Nobody is stopping you. But if you are asking me where it is coming from the MOOWR, then as of now, there is no specific restriction also or specific provision which allows this also. So ultimately, what is happening is a bond-to-bond transaction that is being happening. So it is allowed and it is being done practically also.
Okay. What benefit government is getting with this scheme? Is it beneficial for companies side, but what is for government? Right?
Government, like I said, the objective is to promote manufacturing in India. So if I am collecting, government is collecting 30 rupees duty on a 100 rupee machine, so that investment is becoming 130 for a manufacturer in India. So it is stopping that 30 rupees is stopping manufacturers from importing high value machines, better quality machines. People are preferring China machines because ultimately they come at a low value. But if this benefit is being given, people are actually going for good quality machines. क्या ड्यूटी का पैसा तो बच रहा है ना, so वो पैसा मैं वापस मशीन में लगाता हूँ, better quality का मशीन लाता हूँ, advanced machine लाता हूँ. So that is how the government is promoting manufacturing in India by giving this money for giving this duty deferment benefit and allowing this to be used as working capital by these units. Actual loss of government, how much is the loss? Hardly 8.25% basic custom duty. IGST was otherwise also available as credit to these importers. So only this 8.25 of basic custom duty that government is giving you as a duty interest-free advance. Yes, ma'am.
So one more question is, what about the wastage from the raw material while manufacturing the final product?
So while we make an application under this scheme, we have to declare our own input-output norms. So based on that input-output norms, you have to account for your wastage and scrap. If you are selling your final product is being sold locally, so you will have to pay the duty proportionately. I am bringing in 100 inputs. Out of that, 98 are actually present in my final product. 2 are scrapped during this process. But since I have already issued 100 inputs from my store to my production, and the entire lot is going for local sale, I will have to pay duty on 100 inputs only. So even for those material which is being scrapped, you will have to surrender the duty benefit by considering this as consumption in local sale.
So
But if
even if it is destroyed or lost.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Because what is happening, अगर मैं इस स्कीम में benefit नहीं लेता था, so I would have paid duty on that 100 quantity at the port of import itself.
Right.
So, see, if I am paying there, I will have to pay here only. I am getting deferment benefit. There is no allowance for this scrappage etc. But if the final product is exported, then I can pay duty only on the value, transaction value of the scrap. So if I am, even though the on that two particular quantity in our last example, the custom duty comes out to be 100 rupees. But since I am selling those local that scrap and the entire output was exported, I have to pay custom duty 7.5% only on the scrap value of those particular inputs.
Okay.
So that benefit is there. If I am exporting and scrap is generated, I need to pay custom duty only on transaction value, assuming that I have imported this scrap as it is from outside India, not the inputs which were which the scrap was before.
So last
So-
question, is the paperwork cumbersome to avail this scheme practically, or what was your experience with the scheme so far?
So, like after doing 200 plus registration, it is no more cumbersome for me or us. But obviously, for first 2-3 license, you will have to obviously go through a lot of documentation. But once you prepare a file and go through, we have gone through the. Let me go back to the slide of the document is. So these are the key documents, like I explained. Solvency, insurance, site plan, warehouse keeper, fire audit, safety report, fire safety audit report. If you can get this document at the earliest, all other documents are like your basic KYC, EOA, MOA, details of directors, what machines you want to import, pro forma invoice. So all other things can be managed, or that are otherwise also available in any manufacturing setup. These 5 things you need to work on or kind of help your client in getting this. So you can obviously talk to his banker in his behalf why you need this, because banks, most of the banks also not aware why this certificate needed for customs. They are aware कि tender process में देना पड़ता है. So that they are aware. But for customs, they are not aware. So maybe you will have to go and explain the scheme to them. Under this scheme, if I import machine, I get this benefit for this purpose you are giving. There is no risk attached to you. They are not coming and asking you for payment. But so that much time you will have to obviously invest. And all of the documents are fairly easy to go. There are a lot of undertakings, declarations that we have to give as part of the application. But those are the standard formats. Even if you go to any officer who has done one file, you can get the copies from him, you can request him, or you can submit a file without these undertakings. They will obviously issue a deficiency letter to submit these documents. From that, you can obviously get the format and submit the documents. So nothing much. One might be starting 1, 2, 3 files. You will have to spend a lot of time preparing the documents. But once you get the idea, it's not that much.
There are few more if you want to take up right now, or we can take towards the end. Anything that
Whatever you suggest now, I don't mind if you want to take, because most.
Like we can take it towards the end, 15-20 minutes, if there are not more slides, something.
There are 3-4 slides, compliance related. Maybe we can go through compliances and then we can take up those.
Yes, we can take it later. Yes.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
So import process is done. How to pay the duty? We were here when our duty is paid. We just saw this when we scrap the machines or when we remove the domestic goods. But how to pay this duty? So before clearing goods for domestic sale, the MOOWR unit must file a X-bond bill of entry. So while we import, we file a bill of entry for warehousing, which is also known as an in-bond bill of entry. You are bringing goods in your bond. So while removing the goods from your factory, you have to file a X-bond bill of entry and pay applicable duty. So a new bill of entry is to be filed. Though the goods are in your factory, you can open that. You need to log into the IceGate portal, open that original mother bill of entry that you filed for import at the time of import. In that, you need to select option of X-bond bill of entry, and whatever quantity is consumed in that particular sale transaction, only that much quantity you have to do for X-bonding, and pay the duties will be automatically computed by IceGate portal, and you can pay the duties once the bill of entry is assessed. So that is how the payment of duty process is done. This is done by your CHA also. If you have a lot of transactions, you can do this process in-house also. It is online process on IceGate portal, though it requires some getting to know the features kind of stuff for this portal before you start using, but nothing rocket science. Because CHAs are the people who are not that organized, but still they are able to do this process day in, day out. So obviously someone in our office can also get it done. Like we explained, custom duties are calculated based on the applicable rate on the date of filing of export bill of entry. In customs, there is a concept, duty rate will be applicable as on the date the bill of entry is presented. So if I imported my raw material, let's take example of capital goods. If I am importing capital goods today, the basic custom duty rate is 7.5%. I have deferred that much amount, 7.5%. After 5 years, when I am ex-bonding these capital goods, the basic custom duty rate is now 10%. So I will have to pay duty at the rate of 10%. Though initially I saved 7.5% only, because I am filing an export bill of entry at a later date, whatever is the rate applicable as on the date of filing of the bill of entry for that particular goods, that will be taken. If the rate is reduced, maybe the government might reduce the rate, maybe it comes to 5% only. So you will get benefit of that 5% also. You will have to pay duty at 5% only. Looking at the trend of custom duty rates in India, the rates are reducing only year on year. Hardly there are very limited number of items on which the custom duty is there or has been increased by the government. But 99% of the goods custom duty is reducing day by day only because the government wants to open the market to the foreign suppliers, and that's how this will be gradually going on lower side only. So, but the rate will be applicable as on the date of filing of bill of entry. One particular case I would like to mention, many people are importing textile related machinery in this MOOWR scheme. So currently there is 0% basic custom duty on textile related machines. Through the notification, government has reduced the custom duty to 0%. But still, since textile products are under inverted duty structure, their output is on 5%, but their input is 18%. So these people always have IGST credit available to them, which they cannot utilize or set off against their liability. If they import machinery, which is at 0% BCD, but still they will have to pay 18% IGST on this scheme. So that 18% will always be blocked for them. So what they are doing, they are bringing goods under MOOWR scheme just to save that, defer that IGST amount. Though there is no BCD on their product. To save that IGST, they are bringing goods under MOOWR scheme. But tomorrow, the government has already given a sunset date to that textile duty related exemption. It was already supposed to happen on 1st April 2023, but government has given a 2-year extension. And on 1st April 2025, all the textile related machineries will be subject to maybe 2.5% BCD or 5% BCD. So if these people debond their goods after 1st April 2025, assuming that government doesn't give any other extension, then they will have to pay 5% duty on their product because at the time of debonding, because that will be the rate applicable as on the date of filing of that export bill of entry. So what they can do before the notification comes in force, they can obviously debond their goods 1-2 days before, 8 days, 10 days before, because obviously they from today only everybody knows that 1st April 2025 is the date on which BCD will be coming. So that planning they can do and pay the duties before such rate is hiked. Like I explained, for capital goods, there is no reduction in the duty amount based on the number of years of usage. Duty needs to be paid on the original import value as per the applicable rate on the date of filing of export bill of entry. Here, even anti-dumping duty is also automatically deferred. So currently, a lot of laser cutting machines, laser related machines, laser CNC machines, these machines, if they are imported from China, there is anti-dumping duty on these machines, right from 23% to 147%. So what people are doing, they're bringing in machines under MOOWR scheme today. So they don't have to pay anti-dumping also, IGST also, BCD also. If after 5 years down the line, anti-dumping duty is removed by the government, because generally anti-dumping duty is levied for a certain period of time only, say 5 years, 10 years. And after that is again reviewed. If the industry thinks it is not required anymore, they will do away the anti-dumping. So if after 5 years, these people, if anti-dumping is removed and these people decide to file the export bill of entry after 5 years, they won't have to pay anti-dumping duty as well by just planning their imports under MOOWR and coming out of MOOWR when the anti-dumping is not there. So that kind of planning can also be done. And this is all legal, legible, allowed. So nothing we are doing that is not within the boundaries of law. So when to pay duties, we have seen. How to pay the duties, that is also seen. Now, what are the compliances under this scheme? We have seen the registration process, documents required, benefits, payment of duty, etc. Now, what are the compliances? We are coming to the compliances part. A bond register is required to be maintained by the MOOWR unit. The bond register is, it will show the inward of the goods and outward of the goods. List wise or serial number wise list of bill of entries that were filed under MOOWR scheme. Through that bill of entry, how much duty was deferred, how many quantity of goods came in, and similarly on the right side you can show how the goods moved out of my warehouse, whether they went for export, whether they went for domestic sale. If domestic sale, how much duty was paid, on which date it was paid. So all these details are required to be maintained in a Excel format. This register you can maintain in Excel format, that is allowed. You need not have a physical bond register. Even in Excel format, it is allowed. This is to be maintained by the unit. This is not to be reported to the customs authorities. This is just to be maintained. If they call for inspection, this can be submitted in soft format, or you can take a printout, sign and give it. So the bond register maintenance is must, because any particular time someone who comes and checks your bond register should come to know how much balance is there in your solvency. So if you don't maintain a bond register, you won't come to know कि कितना balance बचा है. You might overshoot your solvency also. If you are giving 1 crore of solvency, but you have brought in 2 crore worth of material, how you will keep track? Only through this bond register only you will be able to keep the track of. At the operational level, records must also be mentioned for each duty-free input and raw material. So like 10 different categories of raw materials are there. So I also have to maintain how much quantity of each material is there. This can be maintained. This is generally already maintained in any factory. The storekeeper job is this only. He has to maintain how much is imported, how much is there in stock, how much is issued for production, how much is cleared from production, all these things, how much is lying in stock, how much is lying in stock in finished goods. So that record otherwise also maintained, but we also, there are maybe specific formats or bin cards that you can maintain to keep it formal and inspectable by the authorities if required. As of now, the scheme was launched in 2019. Registration started happening since 2020. So in last 4 years also, we have not seen one single unit visited by the authorities. Again, just to random check, because lot of load is there on every customs jurisdictional officer. So a superintendent has a maybe area of 50-70 kilometers under him. So whatever units registered under the 70-kilometer area, everything related to custom, that is the person responsible. So they do not have that much time to go on a random checks and visits. Obviously, when the commissioner orders for a random inspection, obviously they will come. But as of now, in last 4 years, we haven't seen any one unit visited twice, not in Maharashtra or Gujarat. Across India, we have seen no unit was visited again by the customs authority. So everything is going on self-assessment basis. As long as you are submitting your monthly returns, we'll come to that in the next point. And furnishing the solvency and insurance, like solvency, insurance, and fire safety. These are periodically to be submitted, updated. We'll come to that point also. So as long as you're doing your compliance part, there is absolutely zero chance of anybody visiting you, because they are getting data from you. They know through your monthly reports how much is lying with you, how much you are exporting, how much you're selling. If somebody is just importing, not also reporting any exports, not even paying duties, then that person will obviously be visited by the customs. But someone who is already doing the compliances, he is not, because obviously they also have to make value for their time. They won't go to someone who is already compliant. So that is around the inspection. So every month the unit must file a return with customs authorities that provides a detailed summary of all transactions related to duty-free and duty-paid goods within the warehouse. So using your bond register, you can summarize particular transactions related to a month, and that monthly return you need to submit to your jurisdictional custom officer. You can submit it through email also. It is a proper Excel format. It is given in circular number 34 only as an annexure to that circular, the return format. In that return, you have to submit the return. Now, the return format contains information related to duty-free as well as duty-paid goods. So even if I am buying locally, paying GST on that, still as per the return format, I have to report that. Okay, how much I have procured locally, how much GST was paid on that, and how much is lying in stock, how much is issued to production. So this is kind of cumbersome as far as return is prescribed. But practically, officers are not calling for this data. They are saying your duty free laya hai, just give me those details. I don't want your local purchase details, because also, obviously they also don't want to process this much data. So only practically you have to furnish data only of whatever you have brought duty free, cleared duty free, paid duty free, nothing about duty paid. But if you ask me the return ke format mein, it is given, you have to also furnish for duty free as well as duty paid. Duty paid means you are locally procured also. Your import duty paid, that will be covered, plus GST paid material also. So that will be increase a lot of efforts for someone who is preparing these returns, but practically it is not being implemented anywhere in the country. So this return captures your both inward movements and your exports also. So as of now, at the time of import process, we are reporting to the bond officer, customs officer at the port, and through monthly returns to your jurisdictional officer. Okay, how much duty free you have brought in, where is at what stage in manufacturing process it is, how much is cleared and how much is exported. But what about exports? You are not intimating anything to the at the port of export. This is the MOOWR related export, because no such facility is given there. So your monthly return is the data or the basis from which they will gather how much is being exported. As of now, there is no facility or software these customs have to process this data. Everything is just taken from you, piled up in a file. It will always be done whenever they will decide to reconcile it. It will be done based on the Excel sheet submitted by you only. So, but your export related data is reported to the customs only through your returns. So whenever you file the returns, you will have to ensure that your export related shipments are all captured in that particular return, because unless you report the export to the authorities, because this is the only compliance relating to export under MOOWR scheme, you have to report it under your periodic returns. If you miss to report in periodic return, you will have a hard time convincing the authority कि ये मैंने actually export में use किया है, because he will say कि मेरे पास data है, I don't have data to support your claim कि it is used in export. Then you will again have to litigate and comply. So it's better to ensure that these export related transactions are obviously and correctly reported in the monthly returns. So this is the monthly compliance. Within 10 days from the end of the month, we have to submit this monthly return. Now on an annual basis, the unit must also submit a renewed solvency certificate, because solvency is generally valid for some period of time. It is taken for 1 year. Insurance is also available for 1 year only. And fire safety is also kind of, you have to update on a yearly basis. So these three documents, solvency, fire, your all risk insurance policy, and fire safety audit report, these three are to be submitted on an annual basis to your customs jurisdictional offices. So you have to maintain a bond register in your unit that will account for day-to-day movement of goods. You have to file a monthly return with your jurisdictional custom officer summarizing the import and output of that particular month. And annually, you are supposed to file a solvency certificate, fire insurance, and normal insurance and fire safety audit. These three things are there on annual basis. If there are any significant changes in the unit's operations, like there is change in your input-output norms, at the time of application, you are only manufacturing 5 products. Now you are manufacturing 25. So the balance 20 products, you also need to report to the authorities. We have started manufacturing these additional products. This is my input-output norm for these additional products. Kindly keep this on record. I don't have to take permission from them, but I have to intimate them that this is how it is. Because whenever after I show my consumption in export or in domestic sale, my duty payment will be according to my input-output norms only. So we have to keep it on record and file and update it also. If there is change in your manufacturing process, better to file a letter with them and keep it on record. There is change in your warehouse keeper or any other process. If you are doing some modification to the factory, the gate was from east, now it is from the west, whatever changes, it is better to keep everything on record and file, because ultimately the factory was inspected in its original stage. If there are some modifications done, though those are irrelevant as far as duties and everything is concerned, but it's still better to keep these things on record. So there are compliances. Now there is exit from MOOWR scheme. What if I want to exit from the MOOWR scheme? Who would like to exit from MOOWR scheme? Somebody like MOOWR scheme is beneficial only you have local sales. But what if you get a lot of export orders and if you want to get out of this scheme? Because there are certain incentives which a MOOWR unit is not eligible to, like RODTEP incentive. You are not, MOOWR unit is not eligible to claim RODTEP incentive. So if you are getting a lot of export orders, you will miss on the ROTTEP incentive just by being in the MOOWR scheme. If you are exporting, you can obviously import your raw material under advance authorization scheme. You can bring in your capital goods under EPCG scheme. So why surrender this benefit? So there are other reasons also, but this is one of the reasons people will coming or go out of MOOWR scheme when they start exporting. So the exit is also has a structured process. You can exit on your own. You just need to file a letter with them. Now on so and so date, we wish to exit from the MOOWR scheme. Today, whatever stock is available with me, duty-free stock, I am ready to pay the duty. I have computed duty as per my workings. Submit a summary to them based on your bond register. Pay the duties by filing the ex-bond bill of entry for all the quantities and submit a formal request letter. Once they will come and visit the premises just to check the stock that is being intimated by you matches with whatever is there in the inventory, and based on that you will get a closure letter. So closure process is also simple, but it will involve a physical inspection again just to cross check the submissions made with respect to inventory, duty-free inventory. So exit is also eligible. Since you are not giving any bank guarantee etc, there is no need of releasing, going for release of bank guarantee etc. A solvency certificate is given that is anyways getting lapsed in 1 year. So this exit is also pretty easy. Now, what are other aspects? There are two, three slides only. So there is section 65A, which was introduced in budget 2023. Right now, more units are eligible for basic custom duty, duty deferment, IGST, social welfare surcharge, and all other duties. But this amendment was introduced in budget 2023 to restrict or exclude IGST and compensation cess from the duties that are deferred under MOOWR scheme. So if this section 65 is implemented, from that day onwards, IGST deferment won't be available to a MOOWR unit. You will only be eligible to defer your basic custom duty and social welfare surcharge. But IGST component is almost 2/3 of that total duty value. So if that happens, maybe the MOOWR scheme won't be that attractive as it is today. But even though this section was introduced in budget 2023, as on today, even after, let's say, 18 months after this budget, this is not yet implemented. And today also the IGST deferment is available. Further, government also proposed that the class of goods during the introduction of this section, the finance bill also mentions that the government will propose a class of goods that will be notified for which this provision will applicable. So it is our understanding that this provision will not be applicable in case of capital goods, but it will be made applicable in case of raw material. So if you are bringing in raw material under MOOWR scheme, you won't get benefit of IGST deferment. But if you are bringing in capital goods, you will still be eligible for benefit of IGST deferment. This is our understanding based on what we discuss with the authorities. But obviously, only when it comes out, we will come to know what will happen. But as of now, today, all the duties that are charged in a bill of entry, all are deferred under this scheme. There is a lot of confusion around depreciation under income tax. So some articles are there on Google which say you won't be allowed to claim depreciation on the machines. There is no such provision under income tax law which say you cannot claim depreciation if the machines are brought in under MOOWR scheme. So whatever machines you bring in, those are fully eligible for depreciation as per the income tax provisions. There is no bar under MOOWR scheme as well as under income tax law that depreciation won't be allowed. Since these machines are kept under bond and everything, no such thing is there today. You can normally claim whatever depreciation is available to you. Now, if I imported the goods under MOOWR scheme, and tomorrow, maybe after 3, because today I don't have any exports, I'm manufacturing only for local sale. I don't have any other scheme available. I'm bringing goods under MOOWR scheme, capital goods. But after 3 years, 5 years down the line, I'm able to start exports also. And I'm confident that if I can transfer my machine from MOOWR scheme to EPCG scheme, I will be able to complete my export obligation. EPCG scheme has an export obligation, which is 6 times of your duty saved value. So if you are confident of completing your export obligation under EPCG scheme, there is a possibility you can transfer your already imported capital goods from MOOWR scheme to EPCG scheme also. Because under MOOWR scheme, what you are getting is deferment. After 10-15 years, you will still have to pay the duty. But if you transfer your goods to EPCG scheme and complete the export obligation, your goods will be exempted. You will be free to do with the goods whatever you want to do. So That is also feasible and possible. This benefit of deferment can be converted into an exemption benefit by transferring from MOOWR scheme to EPC scheme. A MOOWR registered unit can also import goods under EPCG scheme, can also import raw material under advance authorization scheme as well. There is no barring that if you register under MOOWR, you cannot go for advance authorization or EPC. You can avail these benefits simultaneously also. Being a MOOWR registered unit, you can still apply EPCG, can still apply for advance authorization. That is possible. However, for this MOOWR scheme to EPCG scheme, there is a recent advance ruling in case of some party where this debonding from MOOWR unit to EPCG scheme was not permitted. The reason given by the authorities was that EPCG scheme does not allow import of second-hand goods. The EPCG scheme was launched to bring in new technology into India. So second-hand goods were not permitted under EPCG. Still today, they are not permitted under EPCG. So what the analogy was done by the authorities that the goods were actually used in the MOOWR unit. Now they have become used goods, and used goods are not allowed under EPCG scheme. Therefore, you cannot transfer from MOOWR scheme to EPCG. However, this logic is behind, there is no legal backing to this logic. The EPC, there is a established practice of debonding an EOU unit through an EPCG scheme. Even after 10 years or 5 years, if you are running a EOU unit, you can debond that entire EOU unit and transfer the goods from EOU unit to EPCG scheme. In that case, also the goods were used for 5 years, but still that has been allowed, or for years it has been allowed. It is a very normal and routine practice. So same analogy is applicable for MOOWR scheme also. You can definitely transfer from MOOWR scheme to EPCG scheme. The goods originally that were imported were not second-hand goods. Those were new goods only. And second-hand goods means the goods did not change hand. The owner is still same. Though they become used goods, but at the time of import, the goods were new goods, and therefore that logic is there. You can still convert under EPCG. MOOWR scheme also allows you to import second-hand and used goods duty-free. So, but if those originally imported goods were second-hand goods, then obviously you cannot go to EPCG scheme. But otherwise, also you are allowed to bring in second-hand goods or used goods in MOOWR scheme. And whatever duty was applicable, you are still not required to pay on second-hand goods also. And last point is RODTEP incentive. Exports made by a MOOWR unit are not eligible for RODTEP incentive. God knows what was in the mind of government to restrict that incentive, because MOOWR unit is just a duty deferment scheme. I am anyways paying my customs duty, maybe at a later date. EOU units are eligible for this benefit. Even advance authorization exports are eligible. EPCG exports are eligible. They get exemption, but still they are eligible for RODTEP. A MOOWR unit does not get any exemption, only gets a deferment, but still it is not eligible for RODTEP incentive. Maybe someday their eyes will open and they will allow this benefit, but today it is not available. So that is how it is. And we have now come to the end. Yes, ma'am. Now we can take the questions.
Yes, sir. So our first question is, what would be the treatment for spares which are imported?
Spares will also have the same treatment as your capital goods. As long as the spares are in your factory, you need not pay duty. The day you discard them, you will have to pay the duty. If you keep the spares even after discarding in your factory, you won't have to pay duty because you are physically not removing the spares from your factory. So everything is around, the duty payment is centered around your physical removal. So even if you are scrapping the machines after 10 years, but still keeping that scrap machine in your factory, you won't have to pay the duty. Only if I physically remove it from my factory, I will have to pay the duty. So for spares, tools, dies, everything, that same will be applicable.
Right. Is this scheme applicable for imports of second-hand capital goods? I think same
Yes,
answer.
that is correct.
Same.
Yes, even second-hand capital goods are allowed under MOOWR scheme. There is no bar.
No. Can we pay part payment of duty if duty payable above solvency?
Even after registering under MOOWR unit, you can bring in goods with payment of duty. So there is no obligation on you that every import will come under MOOWR. If you think your solvency is fully utilized, whatever future imports you do, you can do with payment of duty. But you cannot, one bill of entry, you cannot take benefit of MOOWR as well as pay part duties. That you will have to, because once a bill of entry is filed for warehousing, you cannot again pay duties in that particular bill of entry.
Okay. In some cases for domestic manufacturing also we get concessional rate of import duty, that is 10% instead of 25%. How do we avail this concession? Some notification 50/2017 is mentioned.
So that
So
is
when
your IGCRD notification.
Okay. So he's asking, so when we clear this goods from mover unit, will it be at concessional rate of full rate?
It will be at concessional rate only. You can apply IGCRD notification as well as file the bill of entry
Movers.
for housing. Because for MOOWR, you are not applying any notification. You are just filing the bill of entry in a warehousing.
Mover scheme.
But whenever you file the ex-bond bill of entry, your duty will payment will be at that time. So your ex-bond bill of entry will always be a bill of entry for home consumption. And in that bill of entry for home consumption, you can always take benefit of this 50 by 2017 and pay the duties at the reduced rate. Even you can take benefit of free trade agreements also. If India has a lot of free trade agreements, maybe with Japan, Korea, if you're bringing in machines from these countries, you can use the MOOWR scheme only for deferment of IGST also by claiming exemption under these FTS at the port of import itself.
If the benefit is also applicable for SEZ, then companies can have their own separate unit in SEZ and then sell it locally.
Sorry, I didn't get this question.
So I think there was some question on SEZ earlier. So they are saying if the benefit is applicable for SEZ unit, then can companies have their own separate units in SEZ and then sell it locally?
But when you remove goods from SEZ, you will have to pay import duties because anything which is coming out of SEZ is treated as import into India.
Import. Right.
So ultimately, even from when you sell from MOOWR unit to SEZ unit, you don't pay duty. But when it finally comes out of that SEZ unit and becomes part of normal DTA, the import duties will be applicable at that time.
Right. Do we have to register all manufacturing units as bonded warehouse in case of more than one manufacturing unit?
The benefit is available for that particular unit which is registered. See, if there are 3 units, you will have to separately register all 3 units under MOOWR scheme, and all 3 units will get separate warehouse codes, and that can be used for filing their individual bill of entries. So this is not a company specific registration. This is a premises specific registration. Earlier in excise, we used to do separate registration for each factory. So same concept is here. It will be a premises specific only, not company specific.
Okay. If at the time of filing product exempt, if the product is exempt maybe, then custom duty will be nil, something like that they are asking. Not
So
sure of.
your duty rate, the date of filing of export bill of entry, on that day, if the product is exempt, you won't have to pay the duties. But if you are bringing in an exempt product today, and while filing the export bill of entry, that exempt product is now taxable, then obviously you will have to pay the taxable duty, whatever is the applicable tax on that date.
What are the provisions for surrendering the license?
We have seen a slide on that. You can go through the circular number 34. So basically, you need to file a simple letter with them detailing your reasons for going out of the scheme, and whatever is the stock available with you, duty-free stock, give a summary of that stock, compute the duties, pay the duties, and you can come out of the scheme.
Someone is asking, could you please guide us about the new public notice Appendix 4RA RR dated 23rd October 24 for
That is
RO.
totally different scheme.
Yeah. This is related to exempt benefits.
That is advance authorization scheme. Appendix 4A is from foreign trade policy. So it is different, totally different scheme.
For spares procured domestically, whether details are to be maintained.
Like I explained, though in the return it is mandated that you have to report duty paid, records of duty paid goods also, but practically nobody is asking you for that, and otherwise also that data is anyways available with you. You just don't have to report it through the monthly returns. Because in your accounts you are showing that as a purchase now. So that record maintenance is already done by you. Only you are not reporting it through the monthly returns. That is the only thing.
Okay. Someone is requesting, can you once again explain who will want to exit from the scheme?
Okay. So, under MOOWR scheme, I will explain. We have a client who is into fishery products, marine products exports. So earlier he used to import raw material for fish products, raw fish. He used to do processing here and export it. But in March of this 2024, ROTTEP benefit was also allowed for advanced authorization schemes and EOU schemes. Before March 2024, advanced authorization scheme, EOU scheme, and MOOWR scheme all were ineligible for ROTTEP incentive. But in March 24, this notification came out, which allowed ROTTEP benefit for advanced authorization holders, EOU holders, but not for MOOWR scheme. And this client was operating under MOOWR. So he came out of MOOWR unit just to claim that benefit of ROTTEP incentive. So he started importing raw material under advanced authorization and declaring his export under advanced authorization, and he was eligible for that ROTTEP incentive because his volume was huge. He was incurring lakhs of crores of worth of, he was losing crores of worth of ROTTEP benefit. So he came out of this MOOWR scheme. So if your product has a higher incentive under ROTTEP scheme, ROTTEP is available to you only when you export some products. If you are exporting as a MOOWR unit, you are not eligible for ROTTEP. But if you export as an advanced, MOOWR scheme allows you duty-free import for export purpose. Advanced authorization also allows you duty-free import for export purpose. But advanced authorization has an added advantage that you can claim a ROTTEP incentive. MOOWR scheme does not have that advantage. So if your export volume is increasing and you compute कि मेरा ROTTEP incentive बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है, which I am losing just because being in MOOWR unit, you can shift from MOOWR to advanced authorization also.
How MOOWR scheme is better than advanced licenses?
Advanced licenses, you have to follow SIAN norms. Every time you have to get a new license, there is a periodicity of license for it is valid. If you don't utilize the material for the intended purpose, for some reason, you don't get that your export order is not fulfilled within the due time, you will have to pay applicable interest and penalties on that raw material. In the MOOWR scheme, there is no time limit. You can import any amount of raw material. If your export doesn't materialize, you can anyway always sell that raw material in the form of you can use that raw material to sell, manufacture local products and sell. No interest applicable. Plus, you don't have to apply within 6 months or every month, every time. Once a MOOWR license is granted to you, the factory is always registered under MOOWR unless you yourself go and surrender. So this is a one-time registration process. Unlike advanced authorization, which you have to apply periodically, you also have to submit bank guarantees and bond at the port of import. While you also have to go for redemption of advanced authorization. So the record maintenance and application process is cumbersome under advanced authorization as compared to MOOWR unit.
Right. So compliances are more in advanced licenses.
Yes, compliances are more, and the cost of compliances is also high.
What is ROTTEP incentive? Someone is asking this question.
So ROTTEP is rebate of duties and taxes paid on export product. It is given by the government as an refund of the taxes and duties which are otherwise not available as refund to you. Maybe you are incurring duties on diesel or transportation, some cost or some octroi you are paying, or so these type of taxes are not refunded to an exporter through any other scheme. So to cover these mandi tax, or so this to cover these type of taxes, government has given this ROTTEP incentive, so that the policy of the government is goods should be exported, taxes should not be exported. So based on the data gathered from all the manufacturers and association, government fixed certain percentage as ROTTEP incentive against each line item. So if you export something, government will give 30.3%, 0.5%, 0.7% as a ROTTEP incentive to you to reimburse your perceived cost of other taxes, which is otherwise not recoverable. So this is an export incentive in simple line. You get it when you export something out of India.
Okay. This last question. They are saying, as per the regulations, the goods imported have to be kept separately. But for certain industries, it would be very possible for it will be not possible for maintaining them separately. Example, where goods are to be maintained at a certain temperature, like cold storage. Whether separate demarcations on the floors would work, or is it required to have a separate room separately for MOOWR?
Even a separate demarcation on floor is sufficient as far as guidelines, MOOWR guidelines are concerned. Because there are two schemes. The one is private custom bonded warehouse. It has a very stringent regulation, like complete demarcation of duty free. You cannot bring in duty paid goods also in private custom bonded warehouse. You have to compulsory bring in duty free goods only. But MOOWR scheme has that flexibility. You can yourself demark the area which you want to use at inventory and storage. While we apply at the time of the application of the MOOWR unit, there is nowhere in the application it is asked that what is the exact area where you will be storing. We just have to give space in square feet. Out of 1,000 square feet, I am using 250 square feet as my storage space. So most of the commissionerate are following this. There are hardly 1-2 commissionerate like Mumbai. Because these people are used to custom bonded warehouse and etc. They try to apply custom bonded private bonded warehouse regulations to MOOWR scheme and ask for this declaration ki you have to show this separately and everything. But under MOOWR scheme, it is nowhere mandated.
So I think in furtherance to the same question, they have mentioned that the goods imported will have to be unloaded only in the presence of a bond officer. But practically, do such officers visit each premise registered when each consignment is
No,
received?
it is not required. Under MOOWR scheme, it is not required.
Self-declaration.
Because everything is given by warehouse keeper. Even the like we explained, the space certificate is also given by the warehouse keeper, and the re-warehousing certificate is also given by the warehouse keeper. You just have to intimate to your jurisdictional bond officer कि during this past month I have imported this much duty-free amount. This is lying in stock. This is at my floor. This is I have cleared. There is no such requirement of physical presence of bond officer or any other officer here. Even the re-warehousing certificate is also not required to be signed by the bond officer, your jurisdictional custom officer. Though some ports insist that it should come from your customs officer only, not from the warehouse keeper. But under MOOWR scheme, there is no such provision that requires a jurisdictional officer to visit your factory, inspect the goods received from the port, and then give the space certificate, the re-warehousing certificate.
Okay. Road tap incentive when to be booked as income? Is it when the script sale or
You will have to ask
utilized?
someone who is proficient in income tax. I have zero knowledge in income tax.
Okay. So that's it, sir. There were so many questions. I think it was a very insightful session, and it was really like helpful to everyone that there were so many questions. So your time and effort in preparing and delivering this session are deeply appreciated, sir.
Thank you,
We
ma'am.
look
Thank you.
forward to continued learning from your expertise in future programs as well.
Thank you. If somebody
Yes,
wants to ask any questions, my email ID is there.
personally,
Please
yes.
drop in. We can connect or call also. No issue.
I would like to thank all the participants and would request to note down sir's email ID and number, and they can like personally DM you their queries.
Mobile number as well.
Thank you so much, sir. It was nice meeting you and listening to you, sir.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you all the participants for joining in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We end the session for today. Thank you, sir.